It's the company's fault. It's my boss's fault. Just take responsibility for yourself. If you don't like the situation you're in, change it. You actually have to be really disciplined to work remotely, because once we got rid of the office, I actually ended up finding that I was much closer to people.
What does success mean to you?
But happiness is the most important thing. Money's important. Is it ultimate success? Is, hey guys, welcome to the Recruitment Show. 15 years in the game, and Amira, my amazing CMO, is going to be interviewing me.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank
15
you.
years.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
Crazy. You've been with me 6 years.
I know.
How does that feel?
No, the interview's on you.
All right, fine.
It's been fun. It's been
Go
fun.
on.
I mean, it always feels like it's fresh year, and it doesn't even feel like 6 years. So that's a good thing.
It goes quick.
Yeah, it goes quick.
15 years feels like we haven't even started yet. I don't know. Because, you know, if you're doing like new things all the time, you're moving forward and like making stuff happen, then things don't feel stale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when you're like, just like, when you're staying still, or you're just letting things get heavy, and, you know, it just feels a bit. But for me, I've got the same, I've definitely got the same enthusiasm now as I had like when I kicked off.
I love that.
But there's so many craziness going on in the world. You know, it's just like always something like, you know, and then the work itself is fun. Obviously building a company's fun, recruiting's fun, and meeting people, networking. The game gets better the longer you're in it, in recruiting. Because and especially if you're good at making relationships and stuff, because you just build more friendships, you're in it for the long term. It's like long-term investing versus day trading. That's how I think of it.
And here we are today.
And now we're here today.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different. We asked our colleagues a few questions. Yeah, they're quite curious in terms of learning a little bit more about you. And there's a few aspects about the company, your journey, and I've just kind of collected all the best ones.
Awesome.
And I thought I can shoot them out.
Done. Go for it.
So the first one is going to be very cliche, but I thought it's still quite valuable. So here we go. You ready?
Go for it.
Okay. What does success mean to you beyond financial growth? And how do you ensure the company stay aligned with its purpose?
This is going to sound, I'm going to go like cliche back, but happiness is the most important thing for me. So yeah, obviously, you know, there's financial growth and stuff like that, but you know, like there's a lot of, you know, there's this classic like money doesn't buy happiness and things like that. Money's important, and definitely when you're running a company to make profit. If you're not making profit, you don't have a company, and you can't pay people, then you can't grow. You know, so you have to have a keen eye on the financials, say like managing the costs, making sure money's coming in, profiting, all of that kind of stuff. And then for me, that goes also hand in hand with it, which I think is ultimate success, is being happy and doing what you do.
And what about purpose?
So that's my important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the purpose is interesting, right? Because for us, we connect people with other people. So we're connecting humans at the moment, until it all changes and we're just recruiting AI agents and stuff like that. And then the impact we have on their lives is amazing, right? Because you put someone into a role, they're making more money, or whatever, they're more happy. That impacts their family. Then it impacts the lives of all the people under them. So, you know, what we do has meaning. It's meaningful, it has impact. And, you know, and the corny thing is, you know, we're helping people. And so that I love. And if you do, you know, all the good elements of what we do, then like you have a good impact on people and you get paid for it, and everyone wins.
Everyone wins.
So yeah, so I really like all of that. And then you have to obviously hire people for ourselves that share similar values and buy into the purpose and behave in the right way. And that's really important, because it's all human to human stuff. And you make people feel a certain way. And when you're talking about work and careers and money and jobs and stuff like that, it's like you know, it's like really important to people, right? And so you have to like deal with people in a respectful way and so forth. So it's important who we have.
That's really good, because it links with the next question. What qualities do you look for in people who join this company? And how does those qualities shape our culture?
Oh my God. We've been talking about this like all the time. So it's important who we invite into our organization. There's this quote by Simon Sinek. It's like, if your employees are happy, everything else takes care of itself, or something like that. So it's really important who we have, and we're a services business. So it's all about the interactions. So really want people with low drama, low ego, good folks. Like people call it like PLUs, people like us. So good folks, that want to do a good job, that want to crack on. We have different types of roles in the firm. So obviously different types of roles suits different types of people. But like on a kind of a higher level, we want people that get on with each other. And I think culture is the way people treat each other. Are they there for each other? Are you there for one another? And things like that. And that's what good culture is. And so if you have good folks that are there for people, then everything else takes care of itself. And remember also, we're currently fully remote. So again, we're trying to find people that suit a fully remote environment. We were all in the office back in 2020, 21. And now we're fully remote. So we've got people all over the place in like different countries, different like continents and everything. So we've got like diversity of geography, everything. But you need some unity, don't you, in diversity? So you need to like unite behind like a common purpose. You need to have like shared values, goals and things like that. So I think with remote, it's even more heightened that it's important to find people that share all of that stuff. And then suddenly, we're not interested in like, how many hours someone's working, or, we're interested in output. So suddenly with fully remote, we're trusting people off the bat. So we hire people that we think will fit. We trust them. And then we put the right processes and like structures in place, and we're there for them, and we try and do all we can to make them succeed. And then onus is on, folks to hit it.
Trust is a very big thing.
Yeah, trust is massive.
Yeah.
Like historically, it's been like, earn my trust. It's like, and that's a bit classic, right? But actually, I think you should, if you're hiring someone, give them the trust off the bat. You've decided to hire them. And then it's up to them, right? They can either run with it. You've given them all your trust, and hopefully they, step up and they're the person you thought, and they want to be, all of those things. And it very quickly become apparent if it's not the right environment for them, or, we're not the right fit, or whatever it might be. So that's how and it's always been like that, because when we're in the office, it's different, and that old school thinking is still around. But now for us, it's just, everyone meets them. We're very like completely open what it's like. We've had a bunch of folks where they've joined, we're fully remote, and it didn't suit them. Some wonderful people. So you've got to be honest with what it's like. We can't go out for a beer every night. But we're doing lots of cool stuff. Like we do like little team meetups, people collaborate on stuff, you get flexibility, all of those kind of things. Really cool. But it's a certain type of environment. So you've got to make sure that we hire people that suit it.
Do you think the younger generations will be kind of like adapted to the remote world?
Super hard if you're young.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Because you can argue it a few different ways, right? What I'm trying to avoid is the generalization of, you hear it all the time, like young people, they just don't work as hard anymore, or this and that. But I know loads of young people that do want to make it and want to work hard and are hustling. In fact, we just walked the streets of East London just now, and we were just saying that same thing, right? There's people out there like wanting to better their lives, hustle, make something of themselves and stuff like that. So I don't know whether that's an age thing, but with remote work, if you're young, it's really hard. I learned so much from just sitting next to my old bosses and listening to how they speak, or going to a coffee shop for a business meeting. How do you even behave? If you just come from school, or like a dinner, like a lunch, you have to learn how to work. And if you're at home and you're like, oh, do I need to get out of bed today? No, not really. Get the laptop out. You put the, the screen on the background, the little screen on the background so they can't see your background, and you're in bed and no one knows, right? That's not a great, like kind of good thing for your mindset. So I think it's hard for young people. And I think the hardest thing I found running a remote company now is training people. Like, it's really hard because you don't sit next to each other. You have to be more thoughtful about it. So I think a lot of young people really miss out. And maybe actually they're better off early on, like going into an office and sitting around with people, learning the trade, learning how to work and stuff like that, and becoming like, more mature and stuff. And then when you find your thing and you find your motivation, it doesn't really matter. You can work from anywhere, I think.
Got to learn the foundation first.
I think so. Yeah. But that's not, there's so many different, there's loads of different views on all of that. But from what I've been speaking to people, obviously we're on the front line of recruiting, and I speak to loads of leaders that echo the same thing. They find it hard to train young people, or they find young people miss out, or the people that have been in their career for a while, they're like, oh, yes, fine, I'm only going to be in a few days a week, I can work from home fine. That's great, but the young folks in their team, they want them in because they want to learn from them. And also the other thing is, like, not everyone wants to work at home, and not everyone wants to work fully remote. And people love going into an office. So it's a no size fits all. So I think you put your flag in the sand somewhere, and you got what's your organization, and and you have to, like, you roll with it. And if you're there's been a bunch of videos with Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan talking about going into the office and things like that. He's put his flag in the sand. Elon Musk, you've got to go in. It's like we're fully remote. So I think as long as you put your flag in the sand, different things work for different businesses. If you communicate it properly, then try and work out what types of people will thrive in your organization, and then you go about finding them.
I love that. Next question. How do you balance maintaining a strong sense of tradition while embracing change and innovation? We have evolved so much from being in the office, being hybrid, being remote. So how do you maintain all of that kind of like principles?
Yeah, we've done everything.
Now that we are global as well.
We've done everything. So very, very super quick history. Started in the office 5 days a week. I used to do 8:30 to 6 religiously every single day. Never not. Then, and then it was like that until 2020. And then we got dragged out of the office kicking and screaming. I was like the last one in the building, I think. But this is like, no. And then, and then we actually got an apartment in East London, and we made it into a really cool workspace. And so that was kind of in and out of lockdowns and things like that. And then around that time, well, just before COVID, we set up in America, first fully remote person. And then kind of over like 2021, 22, actually we ended up hiring all over the world, for India, people in Europe, America. And so suddenly there was a remote organization, people all over the place. And then it made sense to get rid of our office here. And then suddenly the mindset had to change, right? From just what I talked about, giving people trust off the bat, measuring output versus time. It wasn't the factory era anymore when people were like clocking in, clocking out. Back in the day, it was like, oh, where's Amira? It's like 8:32 and she's not here yet. Or, it used to be like, you used to be able to write down on a list who wasn't turning up because it was snowing outside, all this stuff. But actually all of that's complete rubbish, because it's just like stuff you don't even need to, it's just irrelevant, right? But not when you're in an office 5 days a week. It's like a thing, it's like something that so anyway, once you got rid of the office, once you start hiring people globally, once you start putting different things in place, team calls, I actually ended up finding that I was much closer to people than I was before. We probably spoke more than we would have done when in the office, because I'd come in, I'd be on a meeting, you'd be like doing your thing, and then someone else would come, they're doing their thing, everyone's working, meetings, and you're like, oh, we should catch up. Oh no, we should do a coffee. No. Whereas suddenly when you're fully remote, it's like, right, Amira, let's put our catch up in the diary. So we've got like, 2 a week or whatever. We've got the team calls. So actually we ended up like talking and speaking a lot more.
Being more mindful.
Yeah. And then back onto discipline, you actually have to be really disciplined, I think, to work effectively remotely, because the good thing with working in an office is you get up, get dressed, then you get out, move your body, walking, going on public transport, whatever, which is really good for you. You get into a nice mindset. Something about getting like dressed up, getting in, and then you're at work, and then you go home, and then you're at home. But when you're working at home, everything blends into one. So I think what we've seen definitely over the last few years, right, is loads of people burning out, talking about burnout. Most people haven't been able to like nail down the separation. So I think discipline falls on us as individuals to make sure that we are putting the right things in place for ourselves, and for leaders to talk about it and to offer their advice and kind of share and instigate the conversation, because more people talk about it, you get ideas and stuff like that.
And being more comfortable talking about it.
More
as well.
comfortable talking about.
Before it was like not so transparent when it comes to well-being, mindset, burnout. It used to be like, if I show this, it's going to be embarrassing, or I'll lose my job, and so forth. So it's a good thing. How do you show that though? Like, especially when it comes to employees, that is okay when it comes to work. And
Well, like the old school was like, always last out the office.
Yeah.
Don't leave before your boss, and don't take holiday. And then old school, bosses were like, not like, you don't, oh, shall I ask for holiday? Or can I have holiday? You haven't got time for holiday, have you? So, and then suddenly the employee would go to their boss like, I've just been out, I'm taking like sick leave, But I think a good boss is like they should be telling people to take holiday. Amir, have you taken your holiday yet? Oh, no, you should take a break. It's good. Because actually the real thing is like, if you're not fit, you can't play. So it's like football, right? Like if you're not on the pitch, you can't score, you can't assist, you can't play. I mean, so you look at like some of the best sports people, they got to be on the pitch. Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, like they're all like playing, or like Serena Williams, all the tennis championships she's won. If she was injured, burnt out, she's not going to be winning them. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think the role of leadership has changed now? Instead of like focusing on the business, it's more on the business and the people?
Yeah.
And it's their responsibility.
Well, do you know what? So I actually am a big advocate for taking responsibility for yourself. I think there's too much conversation about people blaming leaders and blaming companies for things, or too many people wait for their company to provide them learning opportunities, to whatever it is, give them the promotion. I think I'm a massive advocate for being the CEO of your own life. Take control, take ownership, don't have this victim mindset, change your narrative, because like you can be waiting for ages, honestly. So I think it's two ways. So great leaders definitely are there for their team, are encouraging their team to take breaks, are trying to keep their team's energy levels like full, their batteries full at all times, right? So you keep your battery full, you need to be like doing different things. You need the human contact. You need to be learning. You need to be taking regular breaks. You need to be talking. You need to be sleeping well, eating well, staying fit. Have an integrated thing. So I think it's really important for leaders to be talking about that. And I think it's so important for an individual, wherever they are in an organization, to take responsibility for themselves. There's like no excuse. If you can't look after yourself, like what's the saying? If you can't look after yourself, how can you look after anyone else? You gotta take ownership. Yeah. Responsibility. You gotta take responsibility for yourself. Don't wait for other people.
Do you think that hasn't been taught though? Because there's a lot of people that are kind of like following the system, which is a traditional path of like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to get noticed. If I, behave in this way or connect with this kind of like person and so forth. No one thinks about, thinking outside the box. How do I learn? How do I, learn to get ahead and without going towards or talking to their management? They don't have that idea. Or is it resource? What's changed?
I think people need to wake up, Amira.
Yeah.
No, like,
or is it because of different industry, different mindsets? Because corporate mindset is very different to SMEs and startups.
No, I think people are just it's the environment they're in, and it's who they listen to most. that people say that you earn the average of your social circle. See it all the time, right? It's like, don't surround yourself with negative people. Cut them out of your life. Surround yourself with people that are positive. They're going to build you up. They're going to be there for you. And also you see on social media, right? Like people life shooting up. It's like it's the company's fault. It's the government's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's you know what I mean, right? People love that. But actually, I mean, for me, it's like, just take responsibility for yourself. If you don't like the situation you're in, change it. If you don't like the job you're in, go find another one. If you're not happy with your salary, go do something about it. If you're, like whatever it is, right? You need to change something. And too many people blame others.
They still do.
Everyone's blaming people.
Yeah,
and let me tell you, the most successful, it's easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like someone's been exited, right, out of their role, right? The narrative that they're telling themselves, it's not my fault, it's their fault, they didn't set me up for success, they didn't give me a chance, this and that. Whereas, and what you tell yourself is manifests, right? So, for me, I think you've got to work as an individual. You've got to work on yourself, your mindset. You've got to make sure that, you're working hard, obviously, because despite what people are saying, you've got to work hard. Like the most successful people on the planet, they're like working really, 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 really hard. So that's like prerequisite. And you've got to look after yourself. You've got to make sure you're sleeping well. You've got to make sure you're eating well. You've got to make sure you're like staying fit. Again, you want to be in it for long term, right? So you'll be working for a long time and you want to enjoy it and be happy and do good work and learn and all of that stuff. And that for me is all like links to your question about discipline. Mm-hmm. Like someone who is fit in their 40s and 50s is someone who's disciplined because they put the work in over like 20, 30 years.
But do you think companies should be like also open to that? So it kind of links to the question. It's like, how do you ensure employees feel empowered to contribute their ideas?
So all I know is
grow and grow.
Yeah. All I know is that we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
In our company. So even you and I, maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you wouldn't speak to your colleague necessarily about like what you're eating or how often you're exercising. It was like a little bit, you know what I mean?
Very private or...
Yeah, a bit more private. Yeah. It was a certain type of person, maybe someone you knew they loved running as well. And you're like, oh mate, how, but we're talking about it all the time, right? Not to shame people or this and that, but I think we're talking about it in a positive way that opens up the floor to people talking about things or asking questions or, and suddenly we're talking about like foods, good foods. Some people have a dip at 3:00 because they've eaten something bad at lunch. All this kind of stuff we're talking about a lot, and also like strength training, longevity, energy levels, mindset, mindfulness. You were talking about your morning routine the other day. So I think the leader can encourage it by being authentic and saying what they do, and then suddenly that invites other people to talk about what they do, right? And so you're not forcing people to, but you're having conversations, and people like to have conversations.
Okay, on to the next question. What's a moment in the past 15 years that made you realize this company was truly special?
Obviously, the biggest thing was COVID, right? Where everything stopped. Like everything stopped, So we had like obviously all the searches stopped. Can't see when any money's coming in, and we had no idea when it was going to end. And so that was pretty special because we kept everyone over that period, and everyone like kind of was in it together. And when you have a shared experience like that, it brings you closer together, and actually they say happiness, when you're going through like a difficult moment together, happiness levels increase because you're doing it with other people. I think we learned a lot about each other over those periods, and you learn a lot about people's mindsets and how people supported others when they could see someone was like having a little dip and things like that. So that was really special.
If someone were to describe our company in one sentence, what would you hope they'll say?
Special, happy, caring place.
I
But
love
also,
that.
yeah. But also like laser focused on doing a good job. I mean, we're doing like, really important work. We are finding leaders for companies, and it's important and stuff. So we are really, really good at what we do.
Yeah.
So for clients, and we get lots of great feedback, because it's a privilege to be able to hire for these companies, and we just go like all in.
And the fact that now that we are global and we have grown rapidly across US, APAC, UAE, Europe, how does that make you feel?
I always love global work. It's been really good. I mean, from day one, I always wanted to do international stuff, because it's interesting speaking with people from all over the planet. It's great to hear about different stories, cultures. We're moving people from different places. So it's really nice to see that we are recruiting all over the place. There's also, we're a boutique global search firm. People love working with boutiques right now, and we get to work with some wonderful companies. It's really nice that we're working with the same companies we worked with when we started, plus loads of new ones. Some of the people I've worked with for like 15, even 20 years prior to starting Bentley Lewis. So that is really, really awesome. But you can't take anything for granted, because you're only as good as your last search. There's like loads of choice out there, and you've got to be like always one step ahead. So linked to the last question of like, discipline and tradition, but we're always trying new technologies. Even this last 6 months, we're doing like loads of different stuff, whether it's new sourcing tools, marketing tools, AI. We're going to be trying these like AI agents and things. I mean, there's like, so we've got the tradition, the just quality service, like all the good practices that one does as a search consultant, knowledge, understanding the market, all of this stuff, and then integrating like loads of different tech. I mean, even like with research, we use Google Workspace, Gemini, Notebook LM, Perplexity, ChatGPT, all of this stuff. Yeah, amazing to like continue learning, educate ourselves. So we're like, I always want to be one step ahead.
Do you feel like you have changed? Like compared to how you were in year 1 to Lewis Maleh, year 15?
I still feel like I'm 18, I think.
But in terms of mindset, learning, people, patience, so forth.
Loads less patience now. No, definitely. Because when I started, it was like I'd never built a company. You learn a lot about people, leading people, and it's just also about just the work itself, managing people's careers, understanding company dynamics, understanding people and what makes them tick, because for us, it's about finding the right person for the right role. And it's actually quite an intricate sales process. You're trying to understand culture, feeling, people rely on us for our opinion on people. Do we think they'll fit? A lot of the time people's technical skills are like the same. And the difference that makes the difference is like the human stuff. So I think you get better and better at judging that over time. And then building a company, you're just like learning every single step of the way. I mean, there's so many things that like you can't even, relationships, people, are they fitting, would they fit into our organization? Actually, no, I mean, it's just like chaos. And then just what's going on in the world, right? Like I kicked off in 2010. It was just like end of the financial crisis. Kicked off, and then it was like people hiring, and then suddenly you have like a little, we had like a little crash, Brexit, this, that, and then suddenly COVID, and then, and then you look what's going on in the last year or two. I mean, we had like, I can't remember how many it was now, but anyway, it's like I can't remember how many it was, but loads of country elections last year. Every incumbent government either got kicked out or lost power. So, you've had a whole change in like world politics, economics. You've got like tariff wars, you've got this, you've got that, it's like, and that affects sentiment. and jobs and people wanting to hire and invest. And we're like kind of right in that kind of thing of like, people are asking us like, what's the market like? Like, what market? Oh my God. People are interested in their careers and what it means for them. And AI, what does it mean for their job? They see the combine harvester coming down the track. They're like, oh my God, it's not going to take my job. So there's so much going on. And I think, for us, we need to be like on it. People are asking us their advice. We need to have a point of view and not be afraid to share it. And that's changed a lot, So it's really exciting. You've really got to be like a generalist. You've got to be able to talk about anything and everything and have a point of view, have a discussion, and just kind of, work out with people what it means for them.
If you had to start again, would you do anything differently?
No, nothing. Happy to make the mistakes I made, because that's when you learn the most. People say, oh, I wish I'd, but honestly, like the biggest learning experiences are from the failures or the stuff that didn't go well, or the person you're like, oh, why did I hire them? I mean, I wouldn't have done anything different because that was my journey.
Absolutely. Do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur? Or does it have to be a certain mindset?
Well, I had spoke with my friend Lee about this on our podcast a while ago, and it was like, are you born an entrepreneur or can you learn it? I think there are certain ingredients that I think are within you. Like, I always wanted to build my own firm, like always, and I'm very comfortable like doing that. All the ups and downs that come with it. Other people, they want, like a salary and this and that, and it's all good, right? I think like everyone's different, and I think you've got to understand yourself and whether you are suited to that kind of life. And that's the trick. I mean, I think anyone can try it, whether you enjoy it or not, because you got to love it. You got to love what you do. Not everyone wants to be like trying to make payroll every month, or, oh my God, when's the money coming in? Or, oh my God, COVID's happened. Like, how long have we got left? Or, like those kind of like moments in the trenches.
Yeah.
Not for everyone. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can learn some of the skills, but I think some of them are innate. Yeah, I mean, people are born with different traits and different likes and strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. That's just like fact.
Any advice you would give?
For an entrepreneur?
Yeah, anyone who's starting off.
Yeah. So if you want to start your own business, patience. It takes way longer than you think, and work way harder than you think. Most people give up too soon and they don't work hard enough. I think it's just, you get caught up in all of the like billionaire by 29, and a lot of the I think being an entrepreneur has been a bit like being a modern day rock star. Like so much of it's on social media. A lot of it's tech, where they're raising money all the time. They're not actually making any. They have to sell or IPO, and that's what you see most online. And it's sexy, and you're like, oh my God, And so people get a bit caught up in that. But I think the reality of running a business is you just got to you're in the trenches. You've got to work like all the time. And actually, when you start, you're probably working harder and longer for less money than you were before. Right?
That's the reality.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right? And you're the salesperson, the marketing, the finance, the HR. I was cleaning the office in the first, I was like the cleaner. And so actually, you're just a sole trader right off the bat. And then as you start to like hire people to do different jobs, and you start to build, and suddenly you're creating a business and things like that. But you've got to go like really hard. You've got to go all in.
How did it feel when you kind of like got your first person in and delegating tasks to them? Because you was like a full mindset of an entrepreneur, doing everything on your own, hustling, getting yourself out there, and then slowly you have one new person coming in.
So when I kicked off, I'd seen my cousin build his business. So I kind of like was quite, and I was kicked off, and I did when I kicked off, I did a list of, I had a 6-month non-compete clause. So stuck to that. And then I did a list of 1,200 companies that in London, in financial services, that I wanted to recruit for. And then I just went from A to Z, and I had a wide desk phone. So my neck was like that for like, and it took me 3 months to get through basically the 1200. It's like 20 calls a day or something. So cold calling, back in the day when cold calling was still a thing. And I just picked the phone up, and my first client was Aberdeen Asset Management, AB. So it's quite high up in the alphabet. I was like calling through, got to Aberdeen. I spoke to the chief risk officer. I'm like, hey. And she was like, oh, actually, we're looking for a senior risk manager. They were based in St. Paul's at the time, and I was in the West End in London. So like, she was like, come see me. I was like, oh my God. So I used to have like, those cheesy leather briefcases, like little paper. So I'm like, right, got my pen, had even never had business cards then, like put them in my thing, went to see this lady. She gave me a job description. She was telling me what we're looking for. I was like, great. She's like, can you find me? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Got back to the office, no one on my database. I didn't even think I had a database. And then I found a guy called Ephraim Keifel. I should touch base with them again. If you're watching, get in touch. And he started like 2-3 weeks later. And they were the first and last company to send me a paper check in the post. And they sent me a check, and the check was for £17,500. And that was my first placement. And then put it in the bank. And then I was like, oh, this could work. And then kept going, you keep going, and you're doing all these calls and then follow-ups, and then suddenly you're starting to build. So this is just classic face-to-face marketing. It's like taking people out for a coffee and a croissant, or Americans would say a hot dog and ice cream or something. And that's it. And that's how you build. And then you start to layer things on top. And then I got someone from my old firm to come and join me, because they wanted to come and join. My mum joined me as well to do all the stuff that doesn't make me money, that's important, like sending invoices out and things like that. And then, someone joined me from my old firm, and it was great. And so it was the two of us, office vibes, 5 days a week, 8:30 to 6, and wide desk phones, and it was like old school.
Do you think that still works today, though? That type of like level
of what? Of
resilience, calling, cold calling, that hustle.
You've got to have the hustle. Yeah. But I think cold calling, not really. It's changed now.
Yeah.
We don't cold call anymore. There's loads of other activities that you can do to get in front of people, get meetings, make sales, build relationships. Like, it's changed, right? So you have to evolve with the times. But you have to have that hustle of making 100 phone calls a day and getting 99 no's or getting hung up on. You've got to have in some way.
You've got to embrace the no's as well.
You've got to have that.
Yeah.
Or I had a lot of friends back in the day. When I was at university, I used to do summer jobs. I was selling gas and electricity over the telephone. I had a few friends that were doing door-to-door selling frozen food. Door-to-door, knocking on people's doors saying, hey, do you want to buy some food? These are like brutal. It's like also it's trying to sign people up for charities on the street. Hey, can I stop you there? Do you want to raise some money, donate some money for they're like hardcore. And so I think that's amazing training, those ones. So you've got to have that
resilience.
You've got to have that killer instinct. You've got to have that hustle. But then you have to package it in a way that suits your industry or your job, or whatever you're doing. So you've got to be able to the most successful people I find don't say that won't work for me. They'll say, how can that work for me? And then they'll incorporate it into the game, I think.
Okay. Rapid fire rounds. So a few more questions.
Go on.
This is more about you and your work style and your mindset. What's your go-to productivity hack?
Calendar. Time blocking on a calendar.
That works for you really well.
Now, yeah. I've gone through a whole raft of things, and to-do lists. I always used to have. So back in the day, I used to have a pad of paper, and I would do this for 10 years every single day, and I've still got all the pads at home. I should take a photo of them. So every day I'd open my pad, I put the date, and I'd do 3 columns. So column 1 would be candidates I need to get in touch with today. Column 2 would be like clients that I need to get in touch with, and then column 3 would be other stuff. Maybe like I need to arrange an interview, I need to book the dentist, whatever. And this would be my to-do list. And then every time I'd done something, I'd cross it off. So I've successfully completed a task. So it made me feel good about myself. At the end of the day, I'd look back at all the tasks I've successfully completed. Then I would write the ones I haven't for the next day. And I did that religiously for 10 years until I then went digital. And so calendaring, and I now use like my calendar is my main kind of like can't forget. Plus I've got a little cheeky digital task list. I know people like pen and paper and stuff like that. Personally, I've gone fully digital.
Love that. Okay. What's the best book or audio you've read or listened to recently? and
Audio,
why?
love that.
Yeah.
That. I do a lot of podcasts at the moment. I'm currently just started listening to Yuval Harari's 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And it's really good. If you've not listened to Yuval Harari before, he does a really good job at talking through like technology, society, you know, what it means. He did Sapiens and Homo Deus.
Yeah.
So I really like the way he like approaches those kind of things. So I'm listening to that at the moment. And then, do you want to hear about my top podcasts right now?
Go for it.
All right. Controversial about podcasts. You know, everyone's like a little bit. But the ones. So I just want to say that my big thing that I've been doing recently is trying to listen to people that from all walks of life, you know, people that I might agree with or disagree with. I want to get a variety. I want to listen and read to a variety of sources. I think too many people stick to their echo chambers, you know, like this confirmation bias and just like listening to people that they're like, no. So I'm trying to listen to a wide range of stuff. So I listen to Joe Rogan a lot. I've really enjoying, and I like long format because I think with long format, you can really understand what people are like out on about.
They go in a deep dive.
Love it. Yeah. So I'm just Joe Rogan. I really like Lex Friedman. He does some really good 3 to 4 hour long formats. His recent one with Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, was really interesting. And he did Zelensky, and I think he's about to interview Vladimir Putin, which is very interesting. But then also he does some really interesting like deep dive on science, and which I really love. Huberman's really good as well. I listened to Jordan Peterson's podcast. I really like that. And I've been listening to the All In podcast, which is quite interesting, which is a bit about like these like 4 VC guys in America. And so I quite like it. It's a bit more about economics, investment, things like that. And yeah, that's my listening thing, and a bunch of others around it. So
I love that. So do you usually go for like skill development, or is it more of knowledge of the world?
So I'm mixing it. So I've quite liked the All In podcast because it's a bit of a US, it's a US slant to investment and all the stuff that Donald Trump is doing at the moment. They have some really interesting commentary on, and they try and steelman all the different sides. So you can kind of try and understand the argument for whatever it is, or the argument against, or what these folks think might be the outcome. So I quite like that, because some are like so biased towards one side. But I think for me, like, I enjoy listening to conversation, and good conversation, I think, is about discussing, you know, all the different sides. There's quite a lot online of like people arguing, and you know, like, a lot of people, you can see it. It's like they're waiting for someone to finish just so they can jump in and just say what their view is, you know. But what I really like is people that actually want to have a conversation about a topic, unemotional, you know, just like listening to each other. And then as the listener or the watcher, you can learn something.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, I didn't really think about that. Or, you know, what's going to happen with tariffs? You know, a crazy topic, right? People get very emotional about it. If you're in America, it's political. It's like, you know. But I'm quite interested to understand, you know, like, well, what are the different things that go into it? Could it work? What could the effects be? I think ultimately no one knows right now. But it's quite interesting to listen to, you know. But then also, I quite like listening. I'm really interested in science and technology. And so, you know, forgetting the politics, the economic stuff, really interested. Like, there's a wonderful company right now that are going to be bringing back extinct mammals like woolly mammoth and things like that. Fascinating. Or like the pyramids in Egypt and what they're finding underneath. You know, I've got really into like human history. I love my science for my chemistry degree, and just so it's good to be, you know, like if you get too into like listening to like politics, it's nice to be.
Broaden your
Sport. I
horizon.
love sport, and I like listen to a bunch of sports podcasts and things like that. So
I love that.
be
I love that.
widely, you know,
Knowledgeable.
yeah.
Yeah. If you weren't a CEO, what career would you choose?
I wanted to be a professional footballer. He didn't.
Who would you play for?
Well, I support Watford because I went to school at Watford and I live near Arsenal, so I like Arsenal. I would have just like, I mean, how cool would it have been to be a pro footballer?
True.
Pro
Can you
sports,
imagine?
it would have been great. So if I was, I would have loved to have done that, but I never had
Awesome.
the ability.
What's one thing you can't start your day without?
Coffee. Life's better caffeinated. I mean, every morning I get up and I make coffee.
Would you say you're a coffee snob?
Definitely. Definitely. Probably drink too much, but literally I do that. But then also I quite like, so I can't like go downstairs, make a coffee. I've got like the legit espresso thing. I've also got an AeroPress and a French press. So make a nice cup of coffee. I also like to like step outside into the garden, and I'm going to sound like a bit of a, but I've got a cold plunge outside in the garden. So about 3 days a week, so in the morning, so like I get up about 6 a.m. So like 3 days a week or something, I'll go into the garden. Well, every day I'll go into the garden. I quite like just taking some breaths, and like it's quite nice to like, you know, like ground yourself a little bit, even for just like 10, 15 seconds. And then 3 days a week at like 6, I'll do the same thing, but then I'll get in my cold bath outside. It's like 5, 6 degrees. I've got a little chiller, and I'll go in there for like a few minutes, and I'll come out feeling like a lion, and then I'll drink my coffee. Sometimes I'll do CrossFit in the morning as well. Mostly I'm doing that in the evening, but by mixing
It
it.
sets your day. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
So I love a good workout. Yeah. So my favorite thing is, so if I'm working hard, long day, then I do a lot of CrossFit, or I like running, things like that. And I'll book in a CrossFit sesh, weightlifting, and I'll get into the gym and I'll do a really hard workout. And yeah.
Do you think exercise is a very important thing for you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like massive. Yeah, definitely. Because there's actually nothing harder than you do in the day than a hard workout. Like if you do a proper hard workout, and I quite like group exercise, so like CrossFit and things like that, because you're with others, you get in there, got no idea what these people are doing outside the gym. You just know that guy can lift 100, that girl can do this, that, you know, and it's like you walk in, you see often the same people. It's a nice community, and you've all done your hard day's work. Everyone's doing something different, and you can see it, you know, whether it's the morning, everyone's like on it so they can start their day in a great way, or some people, sometimes they do a lunchtime instead of their lunch. They get in, they do quick, or evening. You can just see it in their face, right? And you've all in the same boat. You get in, and you're like, whatever's happened that day, you leave it outside, and then you're doing pull-ups, you're doing weights, you're doing handstands, you're doing whatever it's doing, and it's just like completely changes you.